At the time of this recording, we're still in the middle of the pandemic, and there are plenty of reports suggesting that people are eating more, drinking more alcohol, and skipping their workouts. What about you? How are you doing on your health goals? Are you having a hard time staying motivated to do what you say you want to do? On the other hand, if you're on track right now, getting enough sleep, eating for energy, fitting in fitness, do you find yourself slipping when no one else is looking? You know what I'm talking about. When you're not earning points for your behavior, when you're not doing a challenge of some sort. Well, whether you're in the first group and can't get motivated, or you're in the second group, whereby you have a hard time staying motivated all by yourself, today's guest will help you. She's going to share numerous ways that you can get and stay self-motivated to do whatever it is that you want to do without someone bugging you, without the need for bribes, prizes, and rewards. So stick around. Hello and welcome to Dr. Joe's Health and Sanity Call. I'm Dr. Joe, a wellness expert and professional speaker who helps busy people stay healthy, sane, and productive. For more information of how I can help you and your organization, visit drjoe.com, drjo.com. Dr. Raquel Gazan is the president of Revitalize Project. She's delivered performance and wellness content to tens of thousands of high performers in over 25 countries over the last 20 years. Dr. Gazan has served on corporate boards, editorial review boards, and has appeared on national radio and television. She's just authored her first book, The Business of You, Leveraging Business Principles to Thrive in Life. So welcome, Raquel. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Great. I invited you today because I had read an article that you posted on LinkedIn that just sparked something inside of me. And you were talking about intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation. And I was wondering if you could explain to us, like, what exactly is the difference and why it matters?
Sure. Well, when it comes to maybe changing a behavior, you can be extrinsically motivated to change the behavior. And that means that the motivation is coming from something from the outside. So it could be you take a certain assessment and they give you money, or you do certain things like exercise and you get points and that buys you something, or it's a competition that you could win money. Or it might be that you have a reunion coming up and you want to lose a certain amount of weight, or go on a cruise and vacation and look a certain way. Those are sort of extrinsic sorts of things.
I'm also thinking about people like within your family that want what's best for you, for example, and they think that you need to lose weight, or maybe it's lower their cholesterol and you need to eat a certain way, right? So it could be
external pressures. Yeah, like your doctor. If your doctor says, you need to do this, and you feel like you need to impress your doctor, right? That might be another one. Or you're trying to impress somebody else. Where intrinsic motivation is really the reason that you want to do it is because you want to do it. And it's not for a particular event. It's not to win money. It's not for anything outside. It's because you genuinely have found a reason as to why this motivates you, why it's connected to you, and you genuinely somehow get enjoyment or satisfaction from doing it.
But not everybody is there, right? I mean, they have a hard time. Yeah. Why is that?
I think that maybe it could be societal conditioning. It could be something that's embedded in us, from a survival perspective. I think that there's just a lot of reinforcement around extrinsic motivation. When you are looking at just going to school, grades are an extrinsic motivation, the letter grade that you get in school. Then when you go work for companies, you've got metrics and you're bonused on it and things like that. Those are all extrinsic types of motivators. And what can happen, what the studies show, is if you put too much extrinsic motivation on people, they actually begin to lose their intrinsic motivation capabilities. It's almost like you don't really need to rely on it anymore. So you start to lose that, and everything that you do seems to be extrinsically motivated. And I noticed that, you know, at the beginning of the pandemic, as just one example, when people were all of a sudden stuck at home and sales, people didn't have those same extrinsic motivators in terms of metrics. I saw a huge decrease in not just motivation for work, but motivation for everything in their lives. They were like, I just feel unmotivated to do anything. And what it was really uncovering was this blind spot. They didn't realize that they had lost intrinsic motivation until all of these other extrinsic things were taken away. And then all of a sudden they're like, I'm not motivated to do anything. So you have to work on intrinsic motivation.
Yeah, and I'm also thinking about the day-to-day rewards. You know, it is much more pleasurable for that moment to sit on the couch and watch your favorite show, or to eat a big bowl of ice cream or something like that, than it is to go out and do the things that you used to do, right?
Absolutely. When we're under stress and under pressure, and kind of our world is caving in on us, we're much more likely to just default to survival mode. And survival mode is all about seeking out what's pleasurable, you know, reducing anything that's going to take effort, work, discomfort, anything along those lines. And what you saw is a whole bunch of people that went into that mode, drinking alcohol, watching TV, eating whatever they wanted. Basically, like, I'm not going to do housework. I'm not going to do anything right now. And then I think you start to realize that it's not working for you. But then you're like, now what? How do I get out of this? How do I find motivation? And I think
how do we?
Well, you know, there are a lot of ways. So I usually talk about 8 different ways to find intrinsic motivation. So one of them is just curiosity, just being curious and cultivating curiosity where you want to learn more about something. So maybe, you know, in the area of like exercise, let's just use that as an example. It could be becoming interested in a new form of exercise, whether it's like body weight training because you don't have access to a gym, or TRX because you can hang it from your, you know, your doorway. And then you start to get interested in it. You watch YouTube videos and you start to feel like, wow, I'm learning something. I'm becoming kind of a TRX expert or a body weight workout expert. And that is satisfying for people. And so people can get motivated just with using curiosity as one of those things and learning more about something. For me in the pandemic, one of the things I did is I took up a new sport, and I took up mountain biking. Here I live in the desert and in the mountains, you know, at elevation, and taking up a new sport at age 48 certainly isn't easy, and especially one where you fall a lot. But the fact that it was new and it was very exciting intrinsically motivated me to really want to keep going out there and learning more about it and learning how do I get better at it like these other people. And I think just it's kind of like a new relationship. A new relationship is always fun, right? It's new and it's exciting, and you don't know a lot about that person. You haven't run out of things to talk about. So what I say is, you know, you create a new relationship with either a sport. It could be a new relationship with a new way of eating, and you want to explore it, learn more about it, and it's fun because maybe you become the Instant Pot expert, right? And you're making all of your meals in the Instant Pot. But new and fun is also another thing that can really spark an intrinsic motivation. Another one I talk about is passion. So like if you have a real passion for something, how can you tie in whatever change you need to make into a passion of yours? And so that might take a little bit more self-reflection, but if music is your passion, how do you incorporate music into whatever change that you want to make? You know, so it's like, I don't know, finding yourself, right? And what you sort of lost passion about, or what you can find passion in. A lot of times we're just so busy going through the motions. I tell people, like, your life should not be comprised of what's in your Outlook calendar. Like if your day is made up of what was in your Outlook, and then your week becomes an accumulation of what was in Outlook, that's not really the type of existence that we want. You need to go in there and find other things outside of that you're passionate about, and passion can really spark that intrinsic motivation.
I know. I'm always asking people about what they did as a kid, what they enjoyed. And it's amazing how many people have gotten away from that. More women than men, I've noticed. men sometimes hold on to, even if they used to play sports, now they watch sports.
Right.
But it seems like women have gotten completely away. One of the things that I took up through the pandemic is just getting back to sewing. And I went to the pattern store and I found out the patterns cost like 15, 18, 20 bucks. And I was like, oh my gosh, I remember when they used to be a few bucks. So it's been a long time. Yes. I developed that passion, but.
And just speaking about sewing, I have an acquaintance of mine who prior to the pandemic was super just depressed all the time. And, you could tell that there was a lot of negativity in like social media posts or when you would see him. And he was really, he's really good at sewing. And all of a sudden the pandemic hit and he started to make masks. And then he got flooded with orders. And I could see just a shift in his way of being and communicating. It gave him a sense of purpose. It made him feel like he was making a difference. He was serving others. He was able to use what he was passionate about to actually make money, because before he was just sewing kind of like for his own fun and making dresses for, for people occasionally. But this became a way to make a living. And it was like, he struggled with jobs before and making a living and positivity. And I just saw this change because he was able to take his passion and turn it into something that was relevant, that was significant for others. So that's a perfect example where I think the pandemic is probably the best thing that has happened to him in decades, honestly.
I've seen examples like that as well.
Yeah.
It's amazing because I've heard a lot of guys sewing too that never would have sewn before.
Yeah, it's really amazing. So I think you just have to give yourself some space to be able to do that. And if you numb yourself out with TV and alcohol, you're not really giving yourself the space to be able to have these discoveries. So if you're just sitting there kind of mindlessly playing video games and watching TV, you're not going to have these, light bulbs that go off, right? So I recommend you do absolutely nothing so that you can sit there with yourself and reflect and maybe discover that thing for you.
I agree. Quiet is so important.
For sure. And we don't get enough of that. I have another example of a woman who, had been struggling with losing weight and eating healthy and all of those sorts of things. And what she discovered during the pandemic was kind of a business where she sells like fitness clothes. And in order for her to sell the fitness clothes, I think she attended like a party. I think it's one of those companies where you can only buy it from people. So it's not available in other types of places. She attended a party. She loved the clothes and wanted to become a salesperson, but didn't feel like, she really fit the part. And that almost became her identity. She wanted to succeed in business. She wanted to be able to earn a living. And that was enough for her to eat healthy. Totally. She puts all of these pictures of all of the progress that she's making, selling the clothes. And I think that that's like a huge thing where there's accountability, right? Because you're kind of selling yourself along with the clothes. There's a sense of accomplishment that goes with it, but this became her identity. And when you can somehow identify with these new healthy types of behaviors or this change that you want to make, it makes it very easy. It's like when someone decides, this is who I am. Like if somebody says, I am a vegetarian because of these reasons, it becomes very easy for them to be vegetarian, right? And because it's part of their belief system and their identity. So that's another story where I look at her and I go, wow, like she's not having any issues because this is just who she's become and this is what's important to her.
Well, you just said, I am a vegetarian. That's a mantra or an affirmation by itself. And I know people that have come up with an affirmation in terms of what they want to do or be. Yeah. And the more they repeat it, the more they start to believe it. So I guess we can add that in. I don't know if you were going to talk about that as well, but.
Yeah, I think it probably goes with just, I don't know if it's a specific category, but I think identity for sure is just one of those things that if you incorporate somehow into your belief system and who you are, then it'll work for you. I mean, you can incorporate into your identity and belief system something that doesn't work for you, right? Like people will say, I'm lazy or I don't have discipline. That's an identity that they're creating for themselves that just reinforces that they can't do certain things. And so I always have this, I have a title of a presentation that's you do have time and you're not lazy, because those are like the two things that people will always say, I don't have time and I'm lazy. And I'm like, that's not true. And if you keep repeating that to yourself, you believe it. And so then every time something requires effort, you go, oh, well, I'm just lazy. That's why I can't do it. So beliefs and identity can work against you, but you can also turn those around and make them work for you.
Good.
Another example I have is what I've noticed from people who make major shifts and changes in their lives is that they become almost like a coach or mentor for other people. And that seems to be self-fulfilling. So I've seen a couple of people that I'm friends with on social media. I see them every once in a while, but I'm more friends with them on social media. And they've started, let's say, a group of people, and they get up every morning, they do a video of working out, or they do kind of life coaching types of things. And what happens is when you feel like you're providing service to others, and that you're making a difference, kind of like the guy sewing the masks, but you're doing it in a different way. It becomes this positive feedback loop. You know, people are counting on you. And because people are counting on you, you feel like this sense of, I matter, I make a difference, and I'm making a difference for other people. So I can't let them down, and I can't let myself down. And so I've noticed that people that become coaches and mentors to others really are able to make a significant change and stick with it. So
and that helps for people like you and I too, because we go out and talk about health, and that helps us to maintain our own health as well, I've noticed.
Absolutely.
And also, because we want to be the role model that we're talking about, we're encouraging. But also, I don't know if I told you, the reason why I got into this podcast 5 or 6 months ago was because I found myself like feeling helpless when everything had gotten canceled back in early March. And I said, I have to do something. But I found that doing these podcasts to help other people stay healthy and sane actually helped me, probably more than anybody else.
Absolutely. I think that, there's a category of intrinsic motivation of significance. If you can somehow feel like you're making a significant difference to yourself, to your family, to other people, that it connects somehow back to your purpose, to your values, the way that you kind of see yourself as a person and how you want to be remembered. I think that makes a huge difference. And if you identify, right, as someone who helps others, right, I know that you identify as someone who helps others stay sane and live a healthy life, you begin to find things that help you to do the same. You want to be that good role model, and then you can then extend that to other people. So I think there are just so many ways. I think that accountability is one of those things that can help you stick to change, but a lot of times we look for extrinsic accountability. I need you to grade me. I need you to, give me money or make me pay you money if I don't do this. And I think that somehow we have to create self-accountability. And if you can create systems for yourself of accountability to yourself, and maybe reframe it to say, integrity is important to me, or honesty is important to me, or being a person who does what they say they're going to do is important to me. So when I don't follow through on myself, that's not really having integrity. Integrity and honesty and follow through is not just for other people. And one of the things that I have people really think about is, are you a person that does what they say that they're going to do? And most people will say yes. And I'll say, does that include you? So when you say to yourself in the morning, today I'm going to work out, do you? Because if not, you're not a person that does what they say they're going to do. You do it for everybody else, but you don't do it for yourself. And so one of the questions I ask people is, why do you not deserve the same respect and integrity that you give other people?
Good question.
Why do other people deserve that more than you? And that's like a big question that kind of sits there. But again, it's one of those things to reflect upon. What's behind that? What's going on? And if you can really figure out that you deserve just as much integrity, respect, and follow through as everybody else, everything changes. Your whole life changes. And you start to make these commitments, and you see those commitments as being just as important as your commitments to anybody else in your life. And it makes a huge, huge difference. So I think figuring out how to do that for yourself and figure out that you deserve just as much as everybody else that you're giving to, I think makes a huge difference as well.
Can you think of an example of when you've gotten somebody to recognize that they are giving to everyone else and not to themselves? Is there any story that you can share about a client that made that switch and how they did it?
Yeah, I mean, this is probably one of the most common things that I see. People realize at some point in working with them that, oh my gosh, I feel like I give to everybody else and I put myself last.
Right.
Typically, unfortunately, a lot of people will this hits home when something gets compromised within themselves that then begins to compromise other people. So they get sick, something happens, and they realize that when I am not well, everybody else has to basically put a pause on their lives to help me now. And everything that I've done to help them, it sort of gets flushed down the toilet because now they can't go do these things. I've become now this burden. And I don't think we want to wait until that type of crisis. Now, I see that a lot. I'm always trying to tell people, don't wait till the crisis. Don't wait until your kids stop talking to you, your spouse wants to, a divorce, or, you have a health crisis to realize that you need to invest in certain areas of your life. I do remember a client, though, making this realization that she'd always struggled with her weight. She was very obese, very self-conscious about it, and she'd struggled her whole life. And basically, as this process went on, she made this realization. She kept basically just thinking of all of these reasons of why it was too hard. I don't have time, and I'm lazy, and I just don't have any follow through, and blah, blah, blah. But what she realized is that she associated taking care of herself with bad things happening to other people. She would say, when I try to take care of myself and I lost a bunch of weight, my son got really sick with this disease, and I felt like maybe it's because I neglected them. And then the next time that I really took care of myself and, lost weight and was exercising, something else bad happened out there. And she began to associate taking care of herself with these bad events. And when she realized that, she also realized that wasn't logical, that wasn't possible.
Right.
But she realized that almost subconsciously, that's what was holding her back. And when she made that realization, it allowed her to cut that association and say, that's not true. If I take care of myself, I'm going to be even better. And she was crying. I mean, this was like a whole big, realization, because what I tell people is if you're struggling to make change consistently, you're always kind of falling backwards. If you dig deep enough, you're going to find that somewhere in there, there's some shame. Somewhere in there, there's some guilt. Somewhere in there, there's some disappointment. There's a strong negative emotion that you haven't dealt with, that you haven't confronted. And once you can get there and figure out what that is, now you can move past it. You can figure out what it is that you need to do. Because we're smart people. I mean, some of these forces are working against us kind of subconsciously. So if you can bring those a little bit forward, really articulate what that is, I think that you can really find an internal reason that is associated with your passion, your service to others, your curiosity that all of us have. We all were curious as kids. It's been stamped out of us, right? Just being told what to do all the time. We have, every single person out there that is listening to this has the internal capability to make any change that they want. They just need to find the key to unlock that door for themselves. And you need to have the space to do that.
Wow, that's powerful, Raquel. So let me leave it at that. And perhaps we need to have you back to talk even more detail about some of these things. But if people want more information about you and your services, what's the best way to reach out to you?
Well, you can find me at revitalizeproject.com. I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and I have a YouTube channel. And if you want to connect with me professionally, you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm Dr. Raquel Garzon.
Excellent.
Can I plug my book as well?
Oh my gosh, of course.
Because it came out in January, and then I haven't been able to do as much with it because of the pandemic.
So for people on the podcast, tell us about what it even is, since they can't see it.
I know. Okay, they can't see it. Well, here it is, Joe. You can see it here.
It's called The Business of You.
It's called The Business of You, Leveraging Business Principles to Thrive in Life. And basically, it is a book that talks about a lot of the principles that major businesses use to not just be successful, but to be successful sustainably. And every chapter has a principle, and I give a business example. I might give a business example of a business who applied that principle well and did fine. And then I might give an example of a business who did not apply that principle, applied it in the opposite way, and then failed or went bankrupt or something bad happened. And then I take that same principle and I show you how it applies in your own life to making change, whether it's health-wise, relationship, with your finances, anything basically that you need to thrive in life. So thriving is not just about health, but it's about your mental health, it's about your finances, it's about your social connections and things along those lines. So as one of the examples, one of my chapters is about getting to the root cause of, whatever it is that's holding you back. So businesses have all of these different tools that they use to get to the root cause, fishbone diagrams and 5 whys, because a lot of times we assume that whatever's going on, it is like a lack of time, or it's that I'm lazy, when that's really not the case. And if you start to peel the layers back, you find out the real cause that can be addressed. And so I give a business example, and then I show you how to apply that. And every chapter has a workbook with self-reflective questions that you can use to apply it. So yeah, it came out right at the beginning of 2020. So it was a little bit tough timing. I had some book sales that I was supposed to do out on the road, and all of that got canceled. So.
Well, thank you very much, Raquel.
Thank you. Bye.
If you enjoyed today's Health Insanity Call, please subscribe to the channel and share it with others. For more information about how I can help you and your organization, visit drjoe.com. That's just 4 letters, drjo.com.